Hey everybody, Pete Pardo here with Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of our What's Hot episodes. Today we've got a single release we're going to be talking about, one that's quite important to me, and I know perhaps a lot of you. It's one of my favorite bands of all time. It's a new release by them that sees them once again just amazingly hitting it on all levels now as they're getting ready to celebrate just about 50 years in the music business together as a band. Of course, I'm talking about Great Britain's legendary heavy rock act Uriah Heep, Livin' the Dream, their brand new album for Frontiers Records. So for those of you who have been following Sea of Tranquility for the last bunch of years, you know a bunch of us have been raving about just how good Uriah Heep have been here in like the twilight of their career. This is their 25th studio album. 25! Just think about that. And that's not counting all the live albums and compilations. There's a ton of those too. This is a pretty prolific band, okay, that have had a lot of ups and downs, a lot of best-selling albums. You know, most of us know their glory years pretty damn well, right? Mick Box, founder, guitar player. He's still in the band. He's like the lone survivor from all these years. You know, the glory years. A lot of Lee Kerslake on drums, okay? Ken Hensley on keyboards and vocals and guitars. Okay, David Byron, the late David Byron on vocals. Gary Thane on bass. That was kind of the classic era of the band. It had a lot of different lineups since then. So who's in the band now, you might ask? Well, it's basically guys, for the most part, who have been with Heep for quite a long time. So you've got Bernie Shaw on vocals, Phil Lanzon on keyboards. Both of them have been firmly entrenched in the lineup since the mid-late 80s. I'm going to say about 86, 87 or somewhere along those lines. Okay, you've got Russell Gilbrook on drums and percussion. He's actually been in the band for right around a decade or close to that. And then you've got Dave Rimmer on bass guitar and backing vocals. He's been in the band for a few years, about 5 or so. So how's the album, you might ask? Well, if you've been kind of following Heep, like say this last decade or so, you know, with albums like Wake the Sleeper and Outsider and Into the Wild. These are the studio albums they released. When did Wake the Sleeper come out? 2008. So really about the last 10 years, so a decade. I was right, spot on. Throw in Celebration in there as well, because that's an album that they did where they re-recorded a lot of old classics with the current lineup. These guys are making like the best music they've made in their career. I mean, it's solid album after another. If you want to go back a little bit more, you've got in the 90s, you've got Sonic Origami, Sea of Light, Different World. These are the 3 albums that were released in the 90s. Those are pretty damn strong too, especially Sea of Light. And so, but I think that these albums that they've released since the start of the 2000s are as good, or rank right up there with some of their best from the 70s and the very early 80s. So I dig this a lot. So the album, great songs, energetic, melodic, it's pretty heavy and rocking in spots, and a lot of really memorable tunes, great vocals, catchy choruses with, you know, the multi-part vocal harmonies that Heep is known for. Raging Hammond organ, of course, Mick Box's assortment of heavy rock riffs and wah-wah solos. So it kicks off with Grazed by Heaven, which for me is one of the best tunes these guys have done in ages. It is so good. It's complex. It's heavy. It's catchy. Everything you like about Heep, all right? Really cool, like kind of, you know, intricate musical arrangements periodically during the song. Good riffs. It's just a really, really good song and a really catchy tune. I find I'm walking around the house singing that song a lot. Really, really good. Livin' the Dream, title track. Another really catchy tune. Take Away My Soul, a great heavy rocker. Really, really good heavy rocker. What else? Knocking at My Door is excellent. Rocks in the Road, another anthemic heavy Heep rocker with the Hammond organ and guitar riffs. Water's Flowing, another really good tune. Really catchy and memorable and melodic. It's All Been Said is strong. Goodbye to Innocence, another churning rocker. Gotta love it. Falling Under Your Spell is great. Dreams of Yesteryear. Just all great tunes. And again, what I really always liked about this band is the way they mix like heavy rock or proto-metal, whatever you want to call it, hard rock, elements of prog, little bit of pop, little bit of psych. They've always kind of mixed that into their music for this just sound that is just, it's just Uriah Heep. really nobody else sounds like them. They're so unique. And I think this is, of the albums that have been released since the start of the 2000s, I really think this might be my favorite out of all of them. I know I've kind of said that a couple times since the Wake the Sleeper album has come out, because I think Wake the Sleeper and Into the Wild are both great. Outsider is actually very good too. I think I like those other two a little bit better, but I think this is as good as those first two I mentioned. So it's, for me, this was just a perfect release for a band that just still doing it. Still doing it. It's incredible. And the album is getting a lot of acclaim throughout the world from fans and critics alike. It's funny because I was watching recently a little video from another website, or another channel actually, that was reviewing this, and they had two people giving like a point counterpoint type of review, and both of them gave this album really good reviews, but one of the reviewers just kept getting stuck on, I like this album, it's good, but I kind of get past and was hoping for something like, The Magician's Birthday or Demons and Wizards, and kept going back to that point. And it's like, that was like 45 plus years ago. A totally different lineup and band, a different era. Of course it's not going to sound like Demons and Wizards and The Magician's Birthday. Okay? That we all know that is classic, vintage, legendary Uriah Heep. We're not expecting this to equal or better that. But for 2018 Uriah Heep, the fact that this is so good and probably for this era comparable to and as solid as those, you have to give it credit. You got to. You can't. I just don't understand when everybody, when you have these legendary bands who are still together, granted in, with maybe one or two original members or what have you, still together, still pumping out really, really good music. And people just keep pining back on what they released 45, 50 years ago. We know that stuff is great. We love it. Nobody loves the classic Heep more than me. All right? But when I listen to new Uriah Heep music, I try not to put it in the same. That's a different time, a different lineup, different band, different era. The 70s were magical for so many bands. We know it. We grew up with that stuff. We love what they did back then. But this is new. This is today. Judge it on its own merits. I refuse to compare this to any of those classic 70s albums, other than the fact of the name of the band, right? But as far as I'm concerned, for a release in this decade, this time, this is really, really good, and I get the same enjoyment out of listening to this as I did when I was a kid listening to those albums. Okay, you may disagree with me. Some of you may think that, Uriah Heep, I can't listen to them since the 70s, since Byron passed away, done, and that's fine. But all I'm asking you is to, for once, go out and listen to this on its own merits. Don't think about the David Byron era. Just listen to this album and forget whose name is on the front cover, and listen to it. Can't tell me that it's not a really, really, really strong selection of tunes with some really thoughtful lyrics and really good messages and excellent musicianship and catchy hooks. It's what good music is all about, right? Whether they're called Uriah Heep or the Mick Box Band or whatever. This is a really, really good album. So I urge you to go check it out. And while you're at it, check out their last couple albums too, because if you're someone who kind of discounted and forgot about Uriah Heep back in the early mid-'80s, you really owe it to yourself, if you were a fan at any point in time, to go and investigate some of their more recent work. Extremely strong. A band that is firing all cylinders. I saw them live again a couple months ago, and man, were they good. These guys are just still doing it and still keeping up with all the youngsters, I'm telling you. Anyway, this is on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course. We're here fairly often on the mighty YouTube. We got another new product show coming right up. We got new releases from, what do we have? Brainstorm and Dream Child, all sorts of stuff. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you real soon, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.